In this tutorial, we will have how we can move our player game object in top-down 2D game. Okay, I will have a link in the description of all of these sprites. You can go ahead and check that out. And if you are really new to Unity and C# coding, then I will suggest you to watch my beginner tutorials. I will also gonna have a link in the description of all of those videos, and then you can get started. Okay, so without furthering delay, let's dive into this topic. Okay, as you can see, I have player game object in my Unity, okay, and environment. So this is my player game object. So let's add some stuff. I'm gonna have a link in the description, okay, of all of these sprite that I am going to use in my project will be linked in the description. You can go and check that out. Okay, so without further delay, let's dive in. So basically what we're gonna do, we're gonna select this player game object and we're gonna add some component. First thing, obvious one, we're gonna add a rigid body and we're gonna make the gravity scale to 0, so it's not gonna fall down due to our gravity. And other one is box collider or some collider. Okay, so let's do that. Let's select this player, add component, let's click on this add component. Let's find rigid body 2D. Okay, and let's make body type to kinematic, and we're gonna choose collision detection to continuous. So continuously this player game object gonna check for collision. Okay, so let's add another component which is collider 2D or box collider for collision detection. So let's click on this add component and let's find over there box collider 2D, and let's edit the collider as the size of our sprite. So let's click on this edit collider right over here, and let's edit the collider as the size of our player sprite. Okay, something like this, I guess it's fine. Just play around and you're gonna get hang of it. So once you're done, make sure you just select this player and drag it to your prefab or assets folder. Okay, so you just make it prefab, so basically means copy of that game object. So we don't need to work from scratch, just attach all of these things from start. Okay, and just go over to overrides and make sure you just click on this apply all, so both of these component will also be added in our prefab of our player game object. Okay, so let's click on this override and click on apply all, and we want to move this player game object left and right, up and down. Okay, so let's create a script for that. So let's go to project tab, then assets, right click on assets, then create C# script, name the script what something like player or player movement. Okay, or what else you can do, you can select the player and click on this add component, click on new script, and then name the script what you want, something like player or player movement, and then click on create and add in the bottom. So I already have created, so I'm going to select this player and I have it over here in assets folder. So let's select that and drag it to add component section, and let's go to overrides and click on apply all. So this script will also be added in that prefab of our player game object. Okay, so now let's double click that to open up in Visual Studio our script. So let's remove these two namespaces in the top, we don't need it for now, and let's move over to this update function. Okay, and let's gather some information. So first thing, we're gonna store basically horizontal. Okay, so we're gonna use this input dot get axis. Okay, and in brackets, in quotation, you have to pass the axis name. So in our case, the first thing, we're gonna move left and right, so we're gonna pass horizontal. Okay, and make sure you just spelling it correct and close that off with semicolon. Make sure you just doing, and this function, it's already map up with our keyboard A and D key. So let's suppose you hold down A key, so this input dot get axis horizontal will give us a -1 of value, and if you hold down D key, it will give us +1, and if you just don't hold down any of or both of those keys or lift off your fingers, okay, so this function will give us a 0 value. So whatever we get, let's store into a variable. Okay, so let's store in a float variable. Let's call it something like x movement or horizontal movement, and let's set equal to this. So this x movement can be -1, +1 or 0 depending upon what key we holding down. So if we hold down a key, so this function will give us a -1, so this x movement right over here gonna be -1. So whatever we getting, we storing into this x movement. Basically, as you can see, we directly setting it. And if you hold down d key, so this will 1 be give us 1. Okay, so this x movement will be 1. Okay, and let's do the same thing for our up and down vertically, you can say, in y-axis. So let's gather input. So input dot get axis. So in this case, we're gonna pass in quotation vertical, which is up and down. Okay, so let's pass vertical and close that off with semicolon. So this function gonna give us -1, +1 depending upon what key we holding down. So if we hold down W key, so this will give us +1, and if we hold down S key, it's gonna give us -1. And if we hold down both of them or any of them, so this will give us 0. So let's store into a variable, okay, whatever we get. So let's call this will be also an float value. Okay, float value, let's call it something like y movement, and let's set equal to this. So this y movement can be -1, +1 or 0 depending upon what key we holding down. And let's go to down now. And before we do, let's go to Unity and select this player and play around with x-axis, y-axis. So basically, if we move over to transform, then position, play around with x-axis, we can see player game object indeed going left and right. And if we play around with a y-axis, we can see it's going up and down. Okay, so what we need to move over to this transform, then position, and we're gonna replace this x with our x movement. So so we can go left and right. And basically, if we hold down a key, so this will be, if we replace this x with x movement, so this will be -1, so this will go to negative direction. And if we hold down d key, so this will be 1, so it will go to right direction, because we're gonna replace this x with x movement, as well as we gonna do the same thing for y axis. So we're gonna replace this y with y movement. So y movement can be -1, +1. So if it's +1, means we holding down W key, so it will go up. And if we hold down S key, so this will be -1, so it will go down. Okay, basically up and down and left and right. So let's go to script now. So we're gonna go to transform, then dot, gonna go to position, and top of our position we're gonna add plus equal. Okay, so this transform dot position is a 3-dimensional data which has x-axis, y-axis, and the z-axis. So that's why we're gonna set basically on top of that we're gonna add new vector 3. Okay, vector 3 which has x-axis, y-axis, and the z-axis. And make sure you just close that off with semicolon. So we're gonna replace this x with our x movement. So it can be -1, +1 depending upon what key we holding down. So if we hold down a key, so this will be -1, so this x right over here going to be -1. So we're gonna go left negative direction, so we're gonna set back to 0. Okay, so let's go to script now, and let's replace this y with our y movement. Okay, and for z-axis we're gonna put 0f. We don't want to go in the depth. And make sure you just multiply whole thing, this whole thing with basically time dot delta time. So let's multiply that time dot delta time. So why we just multiplying with time dot delta time, let me explain. Okay, so in my case, this update function in 1 second, it's gonna run something like 60 frames. Okay, and if you do have a fast system, in your case this update functions gonna run in 1 second something like around 120 frames. So you can see there is a huge difference difference our frame rates. Okay, so that's why multiplying with time dot delta time make frame rate constant, means whatever you computer you using, the frame rate will be same. Okay, so that's the thing. So control S to save your code, and let's move to Unity now. And we should able to see we're gonna go left and right, up and down depending upon what key we holding down. Okay, holding down. So just wait for to compile, and it will take a few moments for compiling our script. So once it's compiled, let's hit this play button in the top. Okay, and let's try to hold down a D or a WS key. We're gonna see our player game object indeed gonna go left and right, up and down. Okay, as you can see, but and if we hold down both of those key, W and D key, we should go in this direction. Okay, but we moving a little bit faster. If you test it, if you hold down some keys, as you can see diagonally we moving faster, and you can calculate the length or the vector or the speed by using Pythagoras theorem. If we going just if we holding down D key, so we going to the right direction 1, and if we hold down W key, so we going up direction 1. So you can use, so we going 1 up 1 right. So okay, so you can use Pythagoras theorem. If we hold down both of these keys, so we can find the lead basically diagonal. So we basically moving diagonally little bit faster, and you can calculate the speed by using Pythagoras theorem. Okay, which is a square plus b square equal to c square. So what we need to do, we need to normalize the vector. Okay, to normalize it, so let's unplay this and let's go to script now. Okay, to normalize, we just have to write have to write after this line of code basically vector3 dot normalize. Okay, normalize. Now if we moving diagonally, we will move at the same speed we moving left and right, up and down. Okay, and let's multiply this whole thing with some speed so we can move a little bit faster. So let's go to the top of our class and let's make a something like have a speed parameter. So let's make a public float. Let's call something like move speed. Okay, move speed, and by default I'm gonna give for f. Okay, for unit. So let's multiply this whole thing with our speed. Okay, move speed. Okay, and control s to save your code. Now let's move to Unity. So we're gonna move left and right, up and down with that much of speed, and we can the value adjust the value right underneath our player script. So basically we can adjust the speed right over here. So I'm gonna leave with 4, and let's hit this play button in the top. So we're gonna move left and right a little bit faster with this much of speed, and we're gonna move diagonally at the same speed we moving left and right, up and down, because we normalize it our vector. As you can see, indeed we moving little bit faster, and we moving diagonally at the same speed we moving left and right, because we basically normalize it the vector. Okay, so I hope you get the idea how you can move your game object or player game object in 2D top down game, up and down, left and right. Okay, basically vertically and horizontally. Okay, and lastly, thanks for watching this video. Okay, goodbye.